in the morning in Kampala, Uganda. I want to start off by congratulating the convener of this conference on the wonderful idea. And I'm going to make my presentation on gender awareness analysis and economic development using the Uganda perspective. Uganda is a Muslim minority country, the only one in East Africa, which is a member of the OIC. We have 20% of our population as Muslims, but nonetheless, we are members of the Islamic Conference. My presentation will therefore take a secular law approach. Women in Uganda constitute 51.7% of the population. And therefore, there is need for government and society to understand their needs and requirements for them to be recognized and to play an active role in the economy and to minimize the gender disparities for social and economic development. Uganda has got a program, a progressive legal and policy framework that supports an enabling environment for women participation in leadership and decision-making at all levels. In our constitution, 1995 constitution, reinforces and other local, regional, and international legal instruments, including the 1995 Beijing Platform of Action, the African Union Gender Policy, the Uganda Gender Policy, the National Policy on Elimination of Gender-Based Violence, the National Action Plan on Women, Peace and Security of 2020. These are some of the key policy frameworks that provide a favorable and supportive environment for advancing the status of women in all spheres of national development. Uganda has put in place institutional mechanisms to facilitate implementation of gender-responsive interventions across all sectors, like the Public Finance Management Act, which has a provision that requires all ministries and departments to have their budgets audited for gender equity through what is called gender-based budgeting. And this is monitored by an independent constitutional body, the Equal Opportunities Commission. And this has increased the amount of funds allocated towards the promotion of gender and equity concerns across all government agencies. Overall, there is progress in women presentation in other leadership and decision-making positions through affirmative action provision enshrined in our constitution. In the recent cabinet appointments, a president appointed a vice president as a woman, and the first prime minister as a woman. The first deputy prime minister is a woman, and the third deputy prime minister is a woman and is a Muslim. And out of the many women ministers appointed, 5 of them are Muslim women. In the recent parliamentary elections concluded this year, out of 529 members of parliament, 175 are women, and out of these, 10% are Muslim women. This translates into a percentage of 34%. In local government governance, the women constitute 45.7%. Education and literacy, Uganda has achieved gender balance on pre-primary enrollment at about 49.5, for boys and the girls at 50.5. And primary education enrollment has increased for girls from 49.9% to 50.1%. Uganda has taken big strides in the education of the girl child. And we take this one seriously because we know that education is one of the most empowerment tools for gender equity. The enrollment of girls in business technical BTVET has increased from 31% to 46% for females. On the health and reproductive rights, the implementation of health-related laws has made it possible for Uganda to register progress in improving the health of women and the general population. For instance, the infant mortality rate has reduced from 81 per 100,000 to 54. And total fertility rate has also reduced from 6.9 per 2,000 to 5.4 per 2,000. And this is a big reduction, considering that Uganda is had the highest fertility rates in the world. Government has put in place various initiatives to support the economic and financial status of women. And this includes the Uganda Women Entrepreneurs Program, which avails interest-free money for women's skills development and marketing support. And there are big numbers of women who have benefited from this fund. There is also the Youth Livelihood Program, which started in 2014 and has financed over 20,000 projects. And out of these, there are over 110,000 women beneficiaries. And by July last year, the social assistance grant for empowerment of the persons or older persons has increased for the females from 40% 3 years ago to 60%. And together with our UN partners, government has established the Green Jobs Program, targeting educated and uneducated women and youth to promote environmentally friendly and sustainable work. And under this program, the women are empowered with tools to engage in hands-on enterprises, which you call Juakali. The moderator is familiar with Juakali. And the government is implementing the graduate volunteer scheme, targeting job placements for youth. 50% of whom are young women. And such survival skills we hope will go a long way in enhancing women's growth efforts and development to withstand the COVID-19 pandemic effects. On the employment of women, in the labor force, government has put in place policies and tools that enable women to participate effectively in public sector employment. And these include the Code of Conduct and Ethics for Uganda Public Service, the HIV policy, and the HIV policy guidelines, and mainstreaming gender in human resource management in the public service. With these public service reforms, the percentages of women in the senior positions in the Uganda Public Service has grown from 22% to 30% in the last 3 years. And since then, there has been steady progress regarding increased employment of women in Uganda. Elimination of gender-based violence. This is a big vice. What the government has done through the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development as the lead agency in social development sector is implementing the National Policy and Action Plan on the elimination of gender-based violence in Uganda and the National Strategy on ending child marriage, early child marriage, and teenage pregnancy. Others are the referral pathway to response to gender-based violence cases in Uganda, and the guidelines for establishment and management of gender-based violence shelters in Uganda. All these are geared towards eliminating the vice of gender-based violence, including violence against women and girls, whereas more women than men experience physical violence in Uganda. In fact, in one part of the country, which is in the extreme east, men are experiencing more gender-based violence than women. It is important, therefore, to note that the prevalence reduced from 59% from 2006 to 51% last year. However, reporting and response to gender-based violence is still low. Only 33% of the women report, and only 30% of the men seek assistance against gender-based violence. In conclusion, in OIC countries, especially the developing countries, gender equity and equality, first of all, in Islam, we can't really discuss gender equality without referring to the Holy Quran, because this one is well enshrined. So I think much of our time should be spent on gender equity. For women empowerment to be achieved, we need to enhance education. Education is the main cure to gender equity. Provide health services, give the women a voice in decision making so that they can make decisions which impact them, and of course, economic empowerment and elimination of suppressive cultures. But it's also now that the life expectancy has gone up, especially the women, social protection and other safety nets are equally needed. Without gender equity, you cannot have seamless development. Thank you very much, Chairperson, Moderator.